My name is Margaret Hale. I'm 38 years old, and the email that ended my family fit on a single line. I read it at 5 in the morning, Singapore time, on the 31st floor of a hotel 9,000 miles from the seaside cottage my husband and I built with our own hands. My parents had sold my house to settle my sister's gambling debts. The email ended with a question. You didn't need it anyway, right? I didn't reply. I didn't scream into a pillow. I made one phone call, and then another. And what the real estate agent told my parents 3 days later is a moment my mother still calls the misunderstanding. The county prosecutor called it something else. Stay with me. You'll want to hear what my parents didn't know. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where family secrets come to light and quiet women find their voice. If you've ever been the responsible one, the one everybody leans on and nobody ever asks about, this story belongs to you too. Drop a comment below and subscribe. Let me tell you what they sold, so you understand what that email actually meant. Windward Cottage sits on a bluff outside Beacon Harbor, Maine, on land my grandmother left to me by name in a will she wrote in her own hand. Ken and I built the house ourselves, weekends and vacations, 6 years of them. I'm a structural engineer. He's a contractor. Our honeymoon fund became a foundation pour. In 2018, a nor'easter took half the unfinished roof into the sea, and we rebuilt it without even discussing it, because that's who we are. Ken hand-carved a post at the bottom of the stairs and set our initials into it, M and K, deep enough to outlive us. My grandmother's china hutch sat in the dining room, the one she'd fed 4 kids out of through 2 recessions. And here's the part that matters. My family used that house. Every summer, 2 weeks in July. My parents in the good bedroom, my sister Dila on the porch daybed. I never once locked that door against my family. It never occurred to me I'd need to. My dad taught me to read blueprints when I was 9, tracing load lines with a carpenter's pencil at his workbench. I became an engineer because of that man. Nearly 30 years later, he signed my name on a document I had never seen, so a stranger could buy the house my grandmother's land was holding up. But I'm getting ahead of the story. First, the email. I was in Singapore, week 3 of a 5-week consulting job on a harbor terminal, the biggest contract our firm had ever landed. I woke at 4:47 to my phone glowing on the nightstand. One new email from Mom. Subject line. Good news about Dila. Margaret, your father and I have sold the beach house to settle your sister's debts. It's done, so please don't fuss. The buyers are lovely people and it all worked out. You didn't need it anyway, right? Then the postscript. My mother's signature bow on the box. Don't make this into a thing. Family handles family. I read it 3 times, the way you recheck a load calculation that can't possibly say what it says. My hands were perfectly steady, which frightened me more than shaking would have. It was 4:49 a.m. in Singapore, which meant 4:49 in the afternoon back in Maine. Offices were open. People were reachable. Things could still be done. I don't fuss. I file. I called Ken. He was still on a job site in Portland. I read him the email once, flat. Silence with machinery in it. Then my husband said the exact right thing. I'm driving out there. Stay on the phone. 40 minutes. Portland to Beacon Harbor. I listened to that drive from the other side of the planet. Then his voice went low. Meg, there's a consignment truck in the driveway. Guys carrying boxes. A locksmith's van. Someone was drilling out my locks while my husband stood on my grandmother's land watching it happen. Ken doesn't yell. He got bigger instead. I heard him tell the crew chief to put things down.
The crew chief made a call, and through that tiny speaker, across all those miles, I heard a voice I'd know in a hurricane. My mother. Tiny, bright, absolutely certain. Tell them to keep working. It's a family house. Ken called 911 from the porch steps. That call, logged at 5:58 p.m., became the first official document in what the state of Maine would eventually call its case. Then Ken came back on, his voice cracking for only the second time I'd ever heard. Meg, your grandmother's hutch. It's already on the truck. From a hotel desk 9,000 miles away, I filed a police report online, then emailed the detective assigned, Alvarez, Financial Crimes, a complete package. deed history, LLC operating agreement, credit freeze confirmations, and a letter dated 2019. That letter is the part you need to hear, because it answers the question you're already asking. How does a grown woman get blindsided by her own parents and already have a folder ready? Because it wasn't the first time. In 2019, a credit alert pinged me. A $9,000 loan application, co-signed, my name on it, my father's handwriting doing its best impression of mine. For Dila, of course, for a car after her second repossession. I shut it down in 4 days. I confronted my dad, who stared at his boots. My mother's response wasn't an apology. It was a performance review. You embarrassed him over paperwork. Family handles family. So I did what overreacting engineers do. I stopped arguing and redesigned the structure. Quietly. Detective Alvarez read that folder and replied within 2 hours with the most beautiful sentence a stranger has ever written me. Mrs. Hale, I need you to verify a signature. A power of attorney. 1 page, notarized at a shipping store in Westbrook. Margaret Hale, in round, patient letters, granting my father full authority over my real property, dated that spring.
I recognized its skeleton immediately, because back in 2019, before the loan incident, I had signed my dad a real power of attorney. Limited scope, 1 small wooded lot, 90-day expiration, while I was overseas for work. Side by side, the 2 documents told the whole story. Same bones. My real signature photocopied forward into a new body. The date altered. The scope rewritten from 1 lot, 90 days, to all real property, indefinitely. A dead permission slip dug up and dressed in a suit. The handwriting on the alterations was my father's. Of course it was. He's the only person alive who ever practiced my signature for fun, forging my autograph on a napkin in college. For when you're famous, Maggie. I'd laughed. 20 years later, that party trick had a case number. I let 48 hours pass before calling my mother, so my voice would be level. She answered warm as a heating pad. I asked 4 questions. Who signed the paperwork? Where's the money? Where's Dila? And, off script, does Dila know how you got it? 2 full seconds of silence. Your sister doesn't need to be involved in paperwork. My forged name on a legal instrument had become paperwork. I told her I'd be home in 2 weeks. She went soft. Come home, sweetheart. We'll sit around the table. Family handles family. In the house, not in the street. She had no idea the street was already moving. Ken met me at the airport with coffee and a clipboard. His love language. 3 columns in carpenter's pencil. Recovered. Pending. Gone. He'd spent 4 days chasing consignment shops, buying back our dining chairs, our books, the porch rockers. Gone. Had 11 lines. I made a sound I didn't plan to make. He put his hand over mine. We built it once. Hands remember. That's the whole speech he made. That's Ken. Now let me tell you what my parents didn't know. After the 2019 loan stunt, I didn't yell. I re-engineered. On our lawyer's advice, Ken and I transferred Windward Cottage into an LLC. Hale Shoreline LLC. 2 members, Margaret and Kenneth Hale. Any sale, any transfer, required both our signatures, in ink, together. I froze my credit at all 3 bureaus. I notarized a record of the 2019 incident. Not to punish my father, but because engineers keep records of the first crack. It's how you prove the collapse wasn't sudden. Here's what that meant. My parents had sold a house they had no legal power to sell. The forged power of attorney was written against Margaret Hale, private citizen. But private citizen Margaret hadn't owned that cottage in 7 years. The deed said Hale Shoreline LLC. 2 signatures required. No title search on earth was going to miss it. Their sale wasn't just fraudulent. It was structurally impossible. A staircase drawn in the air. I walked through my own house with Alvarez and a new key. Half the house gone. Not ransacked. Worse, neatly gone. Nail holes where our wedding photos hung. A clean rectangle on the dining room floor where the hutch had stood for 6 years. I called my mother about the hutch alone, and her answer came so easily I understood she'd had it ready for years. Margaret, you have a whole house. My grandmother had owned 2 good pieces of furniture in her life, and apparently I was greedy for grieving one. At the staircase, I found the new post. Our post, M and K. Half unbolted, tagged in grease pencil, ready for handover to strangers. At the family meeting in Westbrook, coffee cake in the center like a white flag, my mother proposed a payment plan. Something reasonable, monthly, once things settle, in exchange for me telling the detective it was all a misunderstanding. I asked the only question that mattered. Pay me back with what? You're retired. Dad's pension is fixed. The deposit's gone to the casino. Silence. Then my mother's law, the one I was raised under. This family doesn't let family drown. Heads nodded like the verse had ended. I thanked my aunt for the cake and left.
That night, alone at the cottage, hand on the half-unbolted post, I finally saw my own blueprint clearly. My whole life, every crisis, I'd run the same calculation. How do I save everyone? Dila from the debt, Dad from the shame, Mom from the neighbors. Everyone except the woman doing the math. That's not love. That's what my mother's law had made of me. Not a daughter. A load-bearing wall nobody thanks until it's removed. The next morning, I signed the criminal complaint. My real signature. The one document in this whole mess that told the truth. Thursday, 11:40 a.m. The title company ran its routine search on the sale. Record owner, Hale Shoreline LLC. 2 signatures required. The deal died on the table. The agent, Teddy Marsh, 30 years in shore property, a family friend, called my mother directly. Lois, the sale's dead. The house isn't even Margaret's personally. It's an LLC. I have to ask, who signed this power of attorney? On the other end, silence. Then faintly, my father being sick in the sink. The buyers demanded their $500 deposit back. 50,000 of it now lived in a casino's ledger. They hired a lawyer. Teddy, protecting his license, filed a full report with the State Real Estate Commission and copied the police. The word stopped being mine and became the state of Maine. My parents went from sellers to subjects within a week. My phone lit up, 14 missed calls from Mom, and 1 text from Dila, silent for months. What did you do? The family group chat, 11 years of birthday reminders, became a courtroom where I was the defendant. She called the police on her own parents, who raised her. The woman who forged my signature raised me. Aunt Petra came to my porch in tears, begging me to withdraw the complaint. We always settle it in the house. I told her, 20 years of settling it in the house is how a $9,000 loan became a forged deed. The house doesn't settle things. It buries them and calls the lump a rug. That night, Dila called. She swore she hadn't known about the power of attorney. I believed her, and it didn't help. Mom said she'd handle it. I didn't ask how. There it was. The whole engine of my family in one sentence. She begged me to drop the complaint, then broke down and told me the truth no one else had. The betting apps were still on her phone. A parlay was running as we spoke. I offered her one thing, once. I'd pay for real treatment. The check written straight to the program, never to her. I don't know if I can want it yet, she said. Wreckage is honest. It's the rescue that lies. My father met me at a diner with his toolbox and told me the story behind my mother's law. 1972, her father's dairy farm failing, the whole town looking away, 12-year-old Lois in her cousin's hand-me-down coat, watching neighbors bid coins on her father's equipment at the auction. She made a vow standing right there. It's not a rule for her. It's a scar. Then, of course, the invoice. So you'll withdraw it, won't you? By September, there was a plea framework. Forgery and theft by deception, anywhere from probation to 5 years. And 2 things would weigh the outcome most: full restitution and my victim impact statement. My mother called, coached by her lawyer. Ask for leniency, probation, then everything can go back to how it was. Back to how it was. Standing at my drafting table, I finally saw the design flaw I'd been living inside.
How it was the disease. Me as the reserve tank, Dila as the leak, Dad as the gasket, Mom as the operator's manual. I wrote my statement over 3 nights. Draft 1 was 4 pages of itemized indictment. I tore it up. It ran on the same fuel as the disease. Guilt. Draft 2 was 2 paragraphs of pure mercy, no conditions. I could hear "back to how it was" humming underneath it. I tore that up too.
At midnight, Ken came down, covered the blank page with his palm, and said the only speech he's ever given me. Write the thing you could still sign in 10 years. Not the angriest thing, not the nicest thing. The one that holds. The night before the hearing, we slept in sleeping bags on the cottage floor. Half the furniture still missing. Ken walking me through the house's whole history in his socks. We built it once. Hands remember. In the morning, I put a loose lag bolt from the unfinished post in my blazer pocket. Engineers need talismans too. We just prefer ours rated for sheer. The courtroom was half Sunday coats, half silence. My parents pled guilty. The prosecutor walked the money. The forged power of attorney beside my real 2019 signature. The deposit. The wire to the casino 36 hours later. Then the judge said, "The court understands the victim wishes to be heard." I walked to the podium with 2 pages I could sign in 10 years. I named the damage first, plainly, no adjectives. 6 years of weekends built by our own hands. $5,885 taken from buyers who trusted a familiar name. The hutch, the half-unbolted post, and one thing that doesn't appraise. From now on, when I see my own signature, I check it. Behind me, my mother exhaled when I said, "Your Honor, I am not here to ask for prison." Relief. The old structure, certain it had held one more time. Then I said, "I am not here to ask for nothing." And I read 3 conditions. 1. Full restitution, every documented dollar, even if it means the defendants sell their own home. 2. Probation with a standing condition barring either of them from executing any document in another person's name for the full term. 3. Any leniency conditioned on my sister entering a certified treatment program, because the debt was never the disease, and the court shouldn't fix the paperwork while the leak that flooded it keeps running. My family has a saying, I told the judge. This family doesn't let family drown. We never did. We kept pulling my sister out of the water so she never had to learn to swim. Today I'm retiring as the lifeguard. Mercy. Yes. A rope. No. My mother rose behind me. Margaret. One word cracked down the middle, cut off by the gavel. In the hallway, with no script left, she said the truest thing she'd ever said to me. Respectable is all I ever had since I was 12 years old. I know, I said. You survived a town that let your father drown in front of you. You built a whole religion so it would never happen again. Mom, I'm not the town. I was never the town. But I'm done being the vault. The court took my framework almost whole. 4 years probation each, full restitution on an aggressive schedule, a standing prohibition on signing anything in another person's name. The Westbrook house sold in 19 days. Dila took the treatment offer in that courthouse corridor, coat still on, before it could stop keeping. I drove her to intake myself. I keep waiting for you to say I told you so, she said. I retired, I told her. That November, Ken finally found my grandmother's hutch in a consignment barn 40 miles inland, tagged $900. We carried it home together. And on the night the paperwork cleared, I knelt at the bottom of the staircase myself and re-bolted the new post. Our post, torqued to spec, the M and the K standing plumb again. You didn't need it anyway, right? That was the question. It took a courtroom to write the answer. I needed it the way a bridge needs its rated limit posted where everyone can read it. Not to keep people off, but to keep the thing standing so people can cross for another 50 years. My parents live in a 2-bedroom apartment now, restitution paid on time. My mother still telling neighbors it was a misunderstanding about paperwork. My father sends objects instead of words. A magazine clipping, a matching socket, folded once, no note. Dila finished her program and stayed with it. 14 months now.
Last month, one photograph, no caption, her 1-year chip in an open palm. I sent back a thumbs up. Recovering people can smell a lifeguard at 100 yards, and I'm retired. I'm not calling this a happy ending. I'm an engineer. I don't certify a structure until it's stood through a storm season. But the loads are finally sitting on the right members. The vault is closed. The daughter is still here. Last summer, we started something Ken named Windward Weeks. 6 weeks a season, the keys handed to families like the one I grew up in without knowing it. My grandmother's hutch, stacked with dishes for strangers, exactly the job it was built for. Under the M and K, Ken carved one more line. Rebuilt, 2026. This spring, my mother sent a birthday card with nothing extra written in it. I put it on the windowsill, because a boundary is a wall with a mail slot, not a moat. If you take one thing from my story, take this. Loving your family doesn't mean underwriting their worst decisions. Sometimes the kindest thing a lifeguard can do is teach, and then get out of the water. If this stayed with you, the one-line email, the phone call that killed a fraudulent sale in one sentence, the sister who retired as the lifeguard in open court, share it with someone who has always been the responsible one. They'll know why. And if you believe a boundary can be an act of love, subscribe to Calm Drama Stories. Every week, another quiet woman finds her voice here. Next week, it might sound like yours.